If you guys couldn't tell already, I'm at another rest stop here in, I think we're in Maine now, but I've been staying at truck stops and rest stops in cities for the last 5 or 6 days, and I'm kind of over parking and staying in parking lots like this. So tonight we're gonna get back out of the wilderness and hopefully see some fall colors. So this spot where we stealth camp tonight, and I always regret when I get here late at night, I always park way in the back, and then when I walk in the morning, I gotta walk like a mile back to the van. But this is my first real trip out here on the east coast of Maryland, and I've had nothing but trouble trying to find places to camp out in the wilderness. I've had no trouble finding places in cities, but out in the wilderness it's a little tougher. I have not been able to find anywhere to fill up my water tank. Yesterday I had to go to a Home Depot parking lot, and I asked the kid that was working the garden center if I could use his hose to fill my tank, and luckily he allowed me to, but there has just been no type of facilities for van life out here. But I guess that's what happens when you have such a densely populated region. I can tell you one thing, I am sick and tired of camping overnight in rest stops right along the highway, so it's gonna be nice to get out into the wilderness tonight. Hopefully the fall colors are shining through, but let's get out of here and head up north. Also, I haven't had the best luck with the weather on this trip either. We've got, I mean, kind of nice weather today, but it's supposed to get cloudier later and then rain for the next 3 days, so kind of lame. Actually, you know what, before we hit the road, I'm gonna come back here and get my Xbox turned on. It's been 2 years and I still haven't installed the switch for my inverter, but I want to make sure that my games are fully updated so that when I get to the spot that I'm going to tonight, I don't have to sit there and wait for them to update. I can just update them on the way there. All right, so it does look like we actually do need to update a few, so I'm just gonna get those started and leave the Xbox on and let them update while we drive up to the spot we're going to tonight. Hopefully at least a few of these games get updated on the drive up there. I feel like we should be fine. We're getting 24, sometimes it jumps up to like 40 megabits per second, but I haven't really played video games a lot in the van recently, so tonight I might get into some of that. Something just exploded. What was that? I don't know what that was. It sounded like a gun went off. But anyways, let's hit the road for real this time. This should be our spot right here, just kind of in between some of these houses up here. Down this path, it should lead right to the edge of a pond. Oh gosh. Hopefully we're not expecting rain tonight or I'm getting stuck back here. Wow. I mean, this is stunning. Little fire pit too. I'm gonna pull up right next to the water. We might have to move. It's not very level right here, but before we do that, we'll get out. So I found this spot on a website called Hip Camp, which is basically people who have land rented out to people like me who want to come camp on their land. And it was only 30 bucks for the night, which is kind of pricey, but I would rather pay for the price of having the freedom to be out here by myself with views like this than to have the amenities of a RV park, but to be crammed up next to 4 or 5 people. So this is definitely a lot more private, a lot better. Got my own fire pit, and basically this entire pond to myself. Kind of wish I had a kayak or something. Maybe these are seaworthy. I don't know. Oh, they got a little paddle boat though. Definitely not operable. Maybe we'll try to take one of those out in the morning. I don't see any paddles though, so maybe not. But anyways, this is our home for the night. And it feels so good to finally be out in the wilderness and be able to camp with my doors open. But I am very, very unlevel. So I'm definitely gonna have to move. And it doesn't look like there's very many level spots on this yard, if any. I might have to break out the leveling blocks for the first time in a long time. Pull the van right up there where it's somewhat level, and then some leveling blocks on this side. But first, let's check and see how our games are doing. I think it stopped halfway through and turned off. Yeah, and we're getting really crappy connection here. We've got 1 kilobyte per second. But it looks like Fortnite and Rocket League downloaded, so I guess we'll be able to play those. Before we do anything else, I'm gonna get the van as level as I can. Oh man, I haven't used these things in so long. All right, 4 might have been a little ambitious. I think this ground is a little too soft. Never mind, this just isn't gonna work. The ground is way too soft. My tires are slipping on the other side and I'm basically just pounding these things into the ground. All right, so I was able to get it up one level, but I mean, it's not really offering that much support, but it's a little bit better. I also read online there's supposed to be a grill over this fire pit, but I think that's this. So we're gonna use that. And once it gets a little bit later tonight and the sun starts setting below the horizon over there, I'm gonna load up a few games of Xbox. I'll show you guys the whole setup and let you know kind of how I powered a little bit before we hop out and play some. I don't think I'm gonna get the fire going quite yet and just start prepping some of the ingredients for dinner tonight because we're making a cozy fall stew just with the ingredients that I have in the van. I think I have enough to make some sort of stew, which has a very loose definition of meat and vegetables cooked in a pot of liquid. So I think we have at least that. Ooh, I think I have potatoes too. Oh, yes. Nice. Don't know what I have in terms of veggies though, if I'm gonna be honest. Is a potato a vegetable? I think so. Yeah, it is. Obviously. We get peppers. Wow, my pizza dough has risen so much. Oh my gosh, I haven't checked on this in so long. This is that pizza dough that I made in New Haven. Huh. We'll have to use that for something soon. Maybe some of these tomatoes from Frank Pepe's. I have some left over. And then I don't think I have anything else. I could have swore I had an onion, but I guess not. There we go. We're gonna make some spinach, pepper, potatoes, meat, and tomato stew. Hopefully it comes out good. It's still so crazy. I love this knife. I don't know if I've given you guys a good look at it yet. It's got these crazy engravings on it. I don't know what that says. If someone can tell me what that says, that'd be cool. I have no idea. So personally, I like when my soup is a little bit heartier and chunkier, but I don't like it when it's too chunky, because then I feel like I'm getting too much of one ingredient in each bite. So I like to make it chunky, but a little bit finer chunky, if that makes sense. So it's so crazy how effortlessly this thing cuts through these potatoes. And this is actually my first time in probably, I don't even know how long, that I've paid for a campsite. And it's my first time ever staying at a hip campsite. But I gotta say, I might do it again. It is a lot better than RV parks. I can't believe I don't have an onion. I always have onion. And I don't think I'm putting the apron on today because we're not really dealing with any messy kind of ingredients, so it just doesn't really make sense. All right, that should be enough. Move on to some of the veggies. It's like a hot knife through butter. Perfectly cut. Oh my gosh. There's like a little baby pepper worm growing inside of this thing. I don't know what that is. It's also so much more peaceful being able to sit here and cook with the doors open as opposed to closed. I don't feel as cooped up as I normally do when I'm cooking in a city with all of my doors closed. And I mean, second to being a millionaire, where are you gonna be able to cook with views like that in your kitchen? I definitely prepped way too much, but it's time to move on to the meat. And I bought this stew meat a couple days ago because I planned on using it for a different recipe that I never ended up doing, but it'll definitely come in handy for this one today. I'm just gonna fine dice this just like I did the other ingredients. And all of this kind of stuff, when you're making a stew, is just kind of preference. You could really do as big a chunks of meat and vegetables as you want, which is what I think makes a stew so good, because you can kind of just throw whatever you want in there and call it a stew. All right, I think we've got everything prepped for dinner. Let's go see if we can't get that fire started. I bought this at the store too, because I've always wanted to use one and see if I can start a fire with the striker as opposed to a lighter. It's actually a little bit cold out, so I think I'll change into some warmer clothes. There we go. I got some big logs on there. Fire is raging, nice and warm. Oh wow, my hand is like raw from scraping that magnesium. I really underestimated how hard it was to do that. Very, very windy out too, so I'm lucky I even got it started. Should be able to start cooking here hopefully soon too. This wind is brutal. Nice little fire going here. It's not the prettiest, honestly, but it'll do the trick. Let's get to cooking. There is one last thing I forgot to cut about, and that's some garlic. Let's just do that real quick. All right, there we go. So first things first, we're gonna get the garlic in the oil, let it get nice and fragrant. that back over the fire. Over this side. I'll let that cook for about a minute, and then we'll start throwing other things in. Can't forget to hit those with a little seasoning. Garlic powder, onion powder. Half of that blew out. And then just a touch of paprika. And also, kosher salt. Oh, looks so good already. Trying to find a good spot on here. It's a little too hot everywhere. I didn't build my fire very well. All right, so those have been cooking up for about 5 minutes. I think it's time to add our veggies, potatoes and peppers. Just throw those in there. Some of our tomatoes from Frank and Pepe's. And then now that we've let that cook up a little bit, and take it inside, add some water. And then I'm just gonna add some bouillon to it, turn it into a stock. And this is gonna be our stew. Once we're finished cooking this over the fire, I'm gonna let it sit here and stew for like 30-40 minutes. I'm gonna add some spinach to finish it off. Add in some bouillon. We can get this loosely covered with some tin foil. And we'll let that cook for about 30 minutes. Might be a little less because this fire is kind of hot. Whew. So much more work cooking over the fire than it is on my stove. But I wasn't about to waste this campsite inside the van again, so. Now, we just gotta wait about 30 minutes for that to finish. We got some dinner. And I don't know why my Xbox keeps turning off. Maybe that's like a setting you can change or something, but I don't touch it and it just turns off. But I think it stays active and updating because Apex is a little less than halfway. Not getting the best internet speeds, 59. Oh, now we're down to 4. It was at 15 or 20 megabits per second, but now we're at 4. So, don't think we'll be playing Apex tonight. That's typically what I do when I need to download games, is if I have a long drive, I'll just turn my inverter on, turn the Xbox on, and update the games while I'm driving. But since I have my back door open in the van, I'm actually gonna plug my controller into charge. I'll take you guys around back and show you the power setup I have that allows me to game completely off the grid in places like this. So as you guys can see, it's kind of an absolute disaster back here. Got my bike and everything just sitting out, but this is my switch for my inverter. It's supposed to be like mounted on a wall, kind of like flush like this, but it's been 2 years and I haven't done it, and I really don't see myself doing it. I don't know why, I just haven't yet. But if you come in through the top here and flip the bed up kind of like that, this is my bed platform. A couple of the boards have actually broken over the years, but overall it's head up. These are just IKEA Scorva mid beams that I have lined 1, 2, and 3, and then some, I think these are 2x2s, maybe 1x1s. I think it's a 2x2, I don't know. Anyways, I got some of those in between the Scorvas, but this is like my little end cap for my power setup. And as you guys can see, it is the dustiest thing on the face of the planet because I have not been down here to do any work in 2 years, which I guess is good. It means my power setup is put together very well. But essentially what you're looking at here is these right here, this 1, 2, and 3. Those are all of my batteries. So I've got 3 100 amp hour batteries all wired together. They go through these 2 big cables right here, down and around to that blue thing right there, which is my Lynx distributor, which is basically just a bus bar where all of the wires go into, and then it gets distributed out to all the other components. So into that bus bar, I have plugged in this mess of wires right here. This is my AC and DC distribution panel. So this is plugged into my bus bar. This big blue box right here is my inverter, which converts these 12-volt batteries to 120 volts so that I can play things like my Xbox and plug in my gaming monitor, which is right there. And then also down here, that little blue box, I have a solar charge controller, which basically brings in the charge from my solar panels and stores it in my batteries. And then I have another thing very similar to that. So when I turn the van on and when the van's running, it sends the additional alternator charge from the van's engine back to these batteries and charges them that way. So I can charge them from solar and while I'm driving down the road. And then essentially this distribution panel is the interface between the bus bar, the batteries, and all of the electrical components in the van. So all these tiny little red and black wires that you see going into the back of this thing all lead to something in the van, like my lights up top, the USB ports in my gaming area, the USB ports in my bed area. Anything that's electrical in the van comes from that distribution box and goes out and powers everything. So that's a very top level, literally, rundown of my very, very dusty electrical system. And I have not been down to look in that area in probably a year. And my inverter, which is that big blue box here over here in the corner, is controlled by this switch, so I don't have to keep it on all the time. So when I want to use my 120 volt outlets, which are your normal plug in your house, the 2-prong plugs, I have to flip this on, which means that I have to have this on to play Xbox or use my gaming monitor, because both of those things are 120 volt. But otherwise, I typically have that off about 80% of the time, because most of the stuff that I have in my van is actually all 12 volt. And I built this all myself over 6 months in my parents' driveway, for anyone who's new here and maybe hasn't watched the channel before. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Probably got another maybe 10 minutes. I got the fire moved over there, and this is just sitting on some coals, simmering away. And I mean, this is a stunning spot. Just look at that sunset. These people up here are lucky to have this as their backyard. All right, it has been about 35 minutes. This has been sitting out here over the fire cooking. Take this top off. Woo! Delicious. The last thing we gotta add is some spinach. I'm just gonna chuck some of this in there. I don't know how well you guys can see it with the steam coming off, but this came out so much better than I expected it to. It smells absolutely heavenly. And there we go. Our little fall campsite stew is complete. And just in time too, because I am starving. That looks delicious. So while I'm waiting for my stew to cool off enough to be eaten, I get myself one more log on this fire. Hopefully it doesn't die out on me. And we're making some hot toddies too. I went to the grocery store and I picked up some local, fresh apple cider. Warm some of that up over those embers. Get some whiskey and cinnamon sticks. We'll have ourselves a nice drink in about 10 minutes. This wind is absolutely killer, but the moon is rising just over this little, I don't know what this is, a reservoir lake. Perfectly clear skies. Should be some good stargazing tonight. And this stew is like piping hot. But it is so rejuvenating being out here finally again in the wilderness and not on some city street cooped up in the back of the van. I've missed it so much. It does suck. We're kind of close to a road over there, so this car is constantly driving by. But I can't complain with the view. But anyways, cheers to some van life stew, hot apple cider, and a truck driving by. Oh my gosh. Wow. For just throwing stuff together in the van. That is such a good stew. I might have to make this my own recipe. Call this Ryan Van Stew and start a cookbook. And I feel like the only thing it honestly really needs is some beans. Some beans would really set this over the top, but if I had to give this a rating, I think this one's gonna be a solid, give it one more taste. I'm giving this a 7.3 out of 10, it's that good. And that's up there with some of my highest ratings. Not the highest, but definitely give this one a try on your next camping trip or on some cold winter night when you want something warm and gonna make you feel good inside. I'm gonna sit out here, enjoy the rest of this meal and the little bit of light we have left, and then head inside and see if we have good enough connection to connect and play some games. Alright, so as you can tell, the fire is on its last leg, and it's getting super windy out, but I did buy some s'mores. I got some caramel or peanut butter or something filled s'mores that I'm really excited to try, and I got another pot of apple cider cooking up over on some embers over here. But I've officially run out of firewood, so this is the last little bit I got, and my light just died, so now I don't have that. Still got some light from the campfire though, but I'll roast up this marshmallow and see what that peanut butter stuffed filling tastes like. And I know some people like their marshmallows completely charred on the outside, which sometimes I do if I'm gonna peel off the outside and just eat the gooey center, but I prefer when I can get them perfectly golden brown all around. So peaceful out here. I love the East Coast, but there truly is nothing like the West Coast of America. All right, well, I can't really squish this down because I guess the center of it's kind of hard, but got my good old Yosemite mug out here for my drinks. This is my favorite wintertime drink, and that is what I call a perfect campsite dessert. Oh, wow. Oh, it's so good. The stuff that was inside of it, I can only kind of describe as that peanut butter inside of a Reese's. That's exactly what this tastes like. This is so good. Wow. And this is perfect for me because I don't like chocolate, so typically when I eat s'mores, it's just marshmallows. I'm gonna go out and clean the rest of that up tomorrow. I don't really feel like doing it right now in the dark, but we'll go put the fire out. And luckily, filled my water tank, so I got 30 gallons of water to put that fire out. And also, before I do anything else, actually, I'm gonna go close that back door because that looks absolutely terrifying. All I can picture is someone crawling through that, so we're gonna get that closed expeditiously. Wonderful change of pace today, being able to go outside, not being cooped up in here. And I can't really tell if my connection is good enough. It seems like it's pretty spotty because every so often it'll flash. I'm getting like 13 megabits per second, and then it just drops to basically nothing. So I might have to use my phone. So see, there it goes. Now I'm at 3 megabits per second. So I might just have to use my phone's hotspot, but Apex isn't going to be downloaded tonight anyway, so I'm going to pause that. And for those of you guys who are wondering how I stay connected to Wi-Fi right now without using my phone, one, I have Starlink. It's not on right now, but I have it from when I'm out in places where I don't have phone connection. And then I do have this back here. It is a Wi-Fi router. I don't really know how much I can say about this without incriminating myself. Because the process I had to go through to get that set up was a little bit shady. But essentially there is a SIM card in there that I plugged in the bottom, and I have a data plan that has unlimited data, and I use that as a unlimited hotspot. And it works relatively well. It's not the best, not the worst. Service is kind of spotty sometimes, but whenever I don't have service on that, typically I'll have service on my phone. Whenever I don't have service on my phone, sometimes I'll have service on that. Just kind of depends. Also, if you guys have any questions about my gaming setup or how I power anything in the van, I do go live every so often playing games in the back of the van, where I'm happy to answer any questions or anything you guys have about my van's gaming setup. Yeah, we're getting a little bit more consistent speeds. For my phone, it's a little bit slower, around 10 megabits per second, but should be good enough to play a game. Let's go see. Also, this mount that I have my TV mounted to, it's locking. I know I've said this before, but I haven't said it in a while. So for anyone who's new here, this, and I know people hate when I touch the screen, but push it in and it's locked. So when I'm driving down the road, it doesn't come flying all over the place. And then behind this mess of wires, there's a latch I can pull that unlocks it, and I can pivot it to wherever I want in the van. And usually I keep these wires kind of tucked up behind here. It doesn't look as ugly. Since it's a little bit higher, I can tilt it down and point it right at me while I'm playing. Also, this desk chair that I'm sitting in really does barely fit in here. I can't lean back too far unless I'm like almost directly sideways. So I have to usually lock it upright so that I don't lean back and like chip up my countertop. For the front of my cabinets back here, which I've already done a ton. I don't know if you guys can tell. You can see all of these like black scuff marks from my chair hitting the black paint there. I also tried to repaint it here and didn't blend it well. So the amount of lag that I have in any given game is kind of very dependent on where I'm parked, what service I'm using, and all that. And obviously it's not going to be as good as your Wi-Fi in-house if you live in a van. It is decent enough and it is playable. And I don't plan on going pro anytime soon, so it doesn't really bother me too much. Also not the best of this game, so don't judge me. Oh, I hate this game. I'm so bad at it. But anyways, I'm gonna hang out here, play some games for us tonight. See you guys in the morning. Morning. Slept pretty well last night, actually. Much better than I had the last 2 or 3 nights at truck stops next to trucks running their engines. And it's looking like today might be another gloomy day. Got a little bit of rain in the forecast. Clouds in the sky. Some geese out there. Yeah, just really haven't had the best weather this trip. Maybe it'll clean up a little bit on my way home, but I do gotta clean up all this stuff and get out of here within the next hour, because I think that's when my reservation's over. But first, I'm gonna make some coffee. And I've started drinking my tea again too. For those of you guys who don't know, I ran out of it last night, but this best tea on the planet, Tazao, whatever you say it, glazed lemon loaf, change your life. I think I've got a few more days, maybe 2 or 3 more days of heading northward. Then we're gonna reach the apex of this journey, right around Bar Harbor in Maine, at Acadia National Park, which is one of the last national parks that I have yet to visit. So I might head up there and then start making my way back down. And I think when I head down to Maryland, I'm gonna swing out a little bit more west into the mountains and hopefully get some more wilderness on my way back and not so many rest stops. I'm gonna get all this mess cleaned up, packed away, and enjoy my coffee. So as always, I truly appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't already, think about clicking that subscribe button. It really does help out the channel. And I will catch you guys next time.